Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Music in the Minor League. This week we were joined by Daniel Torres, who you may know is a local artist that we talked to back in episode 10. We have our new record coming out this week, so we sat down with Dan to discuss the creation of the artwork, some of our favorite album covers of all time, and then we also took some time to talk about the new album we have coming out. Part of having a podcast is you're able to kind of be self-serving when you need to, and we figured we'd sit down and talk about the release before we got back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right. So before we get to it, we'll get the housekeeping out of the way. First off, we have some shows coming up. This Saturday, we'll be at the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe, as Joel's trying to say now, we'll be at the Old Quarter in Galveston, Texas. We'll be playing a full band show, and as a full band, we'll be joined by Joel from the Old Quarter on drums and Rebecca from Grifters and Chills on bass, and Grifters and Chills will be opening that show. On March 23rd, we'll be at Fredonia Brewing Company in Nacogdoches. They've been really cool to us over the last year or so, and we're looking forward to celebrate the new album there. Then finally, we're going to come back around to Black Magic Social Club to do an album release show there, our hometown one here in Houston. It'll also be Kim's birthday party. Grifters and Chills and Shame on Me will be on that bill. That's going to be a real good one. We think y'all should come out and you'll have some fun. As always, if you like the podcast, hit us up, follow, share with friends. That's the best way we can get this thing out here. We appreciate it if you do. If you want to be a guest, let us know. Come on the podcast, hang out. We'd love to talk to you. This is how we do it. That's it, man. We really don't have a lot. When we're talking about ourselves, the intros aren't all that great, so we'll just get into the show. But before that, we'll kick out with the first song off the new record called Lousy Weather. We hope you dig it. We'll see you soon. Later.
Kept us out of tune. Spend my time in the sun, swaying on the moon. A storm in your eyes, such lousy weather. This little love so quickly outgrown. Did my best keep it together, but now think that I'd be better off alone. Yelling all the words that cut like knives. We got our pride, so we never take a dive. Bridge until it's ashen cold. This one-sided love is never worth the toll. The storm in your eyes, such lousy weather. This little love so quickly outgrown. Did my best to keep it together, but now think that I'd be better off alone. The storm all the things that remind me of you. Played your game, glad to say I lose.
All right, y'all, welcome to episode 37
Woo!
of Music in the Minor League.
All right.
All right, this is 37, right? Yeah, Michael's 36.
I hope so. Are you going to cut this part out?
Wait, when's Stefan going?
He comes after us. He chronologically happened before, but he's after.
I'm confused. We're manipulating time
Record
here, people.
release.
We did. It just his time he was available was more. It just worked better. We're not really. But it's important to know that not. So if you listen to this podcast, it may not be chronologically done the way that you're hearing it.
So we're living in a world where the Stefan interview hasn't happened yet.
Right. It's happened, but it hasn't been released to the world. So, that happens. So in case you're wondering, Stefan Prigmore will be coming up as the next episode of this podcast. But today, we're not worried about anyone except for ourselves. Because, part of having your own podcast is whenever you feel like being self-serving, you can just be self-serving. So today, we're here to talk about our new record, which will come out the Friday after this is released. 48 hours after you hear this, it will be on all streaming networks. It'll be amazing. Your mind will be blown.
Worldwide.
Available for purchase in physical form as well.
Just to put this in perspective, if you did look at our Instagram, we did get chosen as one of the top records in Houston coming out in 2024. Number 4, behind the Suffers and Cam Franklin and Big Fat.
All right.
Not bad.
Represent.
Which, considering that the Suffers and Cam Franklin are like one band, Cam does it's our solo album. So we're basically, there's only 2 musical entities that are destroying us.
So basically, we made the podium.
Right, like we did. They're like, it's all right, we'll put her up there. We'll just stick you on there because we don't want to have a blank podium or have her separate. So we got by default.
Default. There you
We
go.
defaulted into the top 3.
Man, big time. But I don't think it was done in order of accomplishment. If so, dude, yeah, number 4, y'all. But we were stoked to be a part of that. So we thank Joey Guerra and the Chronicle for
Heck yeah.
mentioning the new record. Before we get any further, we will introduce our guest, the brilliant artist and friend and, inspiration, our muse, if you will. Mr. Daniel Torres is here with us tonight. Y'all may remember him from episode 10. So I say, we're like, we'll bring Dan back every 10 episodes. And it's like 28 episodes later. It's
It
like,
works.
can I come back?
I'm happy to be here, guys.
If you've seen the artwork that we've posted, it's like, dude, who did that? And it was Dan, and it was killer. The important thing that I feel like saying right off the bat about Dan's artwork is that is actually that was not, the photo of Mount Rainier was not superimposed. Like, he got just that good of a print and that good of a picture.
He actually got out in the dirty water of the Gulf of Mexico.
He's an artist.
And that was actually a photo that you guys took that you were gracious to let me have for the photo shoot.
I know, but I don't remember it looking that good when I sent it to you. I was like, dude,
Right.
Dan got it like pops. It's beautiful.
So that's a photo from our trip to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, it's Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
So Dan took it and he created, basically, like I said off before we started, basically just took the idea that was already in my head that I hadn't told him and just created just a better version of it, kicked it up. What was it? If it's got 4 wheels, it's a truck.
The same but different.
My idea was like, okay, we'll take a cubicle. We'll get someone we know who's stuck in a cubicle and do some string with pictures of places, and that'll be it. That'll be perfect. And then Dan basically did that, but on a grand scale.
The ocean's a metaphor for the cubicle.
Like last time I talked to us, like me and Dan, man, our minds work almost identically.
Yeah.
And we,
Synchronicity.
Theirs goes dim 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 dim.
right?
Right. Mine goes ting 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 ting.
Right. He's under pressure. I'm Ice Baby, or basically.
So you're under ice, baby?
Right.
No, that's me.
But no, man. So we're going to get into all that in a minute. We'll get into the creation and all that of the record. So to start, I figure what we would do is a good thing. We do get questions. People actually ask us questions sometimes on our Facebook page and things.
Do they?
Yeah, believe it or not.
I should check our
Facebook?
Facebook page more often.
If y'all did, if Health wasn't anti-Facebook and you actually
If I didn't suck.
realized we're young enough to know that the internet happened,
Hey,
we would
I'm not up with the gram and the...
I know, but people
Facebooks
have
and
mentioned
stuff.
stuff. We're like, oh, what about this? How do you do this?
I'm
Like,
turning 50 this year, y'all. I can't...
well, we're idiots too. And I mean, they're asking us like, how do you do this? How would you recommend like booking a tour? How would you recommend that? I'm like, oh man, my advice. Woof.
Don't.
Right. But to show you some of the fun things you deal with. You spend all this time, you record an album, you put it all together, you send it in, you hit up all these pressing places, and you're like, all right, who comes back with the best quotes? Who comes back with a reasonable amount of time for the record to be made? And once again, we did our last record through Gold Rush in Austin, female-owned, independent, Texas, record producer. And this time we did it again. They're like, we got 10 weeks, COVID happened years ago. You're fine. We got you. Like, we're on 10 weeks, maybe 12. We got you. Send it in. Apparently they couldn't find the music files. It's fine. We're still like 5 months out. Not a big deal. Get it to them. Get everything approved by mid-October. By like mid-November, it's like, oh, dude, your plates will be here next week. The next week, your plates will be here next week. Think maybe they'll be here after Thanksgiving. And then maybe after Thanksgiving, turn into maybe after Christmas and the New Year. Then after that, till maybe, just maybe by the end of January. And you're kind of like, all right, dude. Okay, then that's where it started freaking out. So if any of us have seemed irritable recently, you know why.
So you mean to tell me I had 3 extra months to make more art?
Right, I know.
Yep.
Well, no, because apparently, according to their email, they've had the printed sleeves since like October. They're like, we got your paper artwork's already done. Or beginning of
Easy
November.
part's done.
Like that part is done. We're waiting on your labels, but the artwork's here. It came out great. And it's like, cool. That's one of the things where it's one of the things that makes me kind of believe that it was the plating company, like to make the plate. It's just, man, after last time, those of you who bought a record knew you had to wait till June.
Yeah.
After we did like a 20 week, ended up being like, I think 28 weeks, and we were quoted like 15 when we started. So it's like,
So the jacket is barrel aged.
Yeah, it's been sitting there, man. It's been sitting there for a while, but please don't still pre-order the record. It's fine. They keep them in a safe climate control place, I guess, or at least wrapped in plastic in the warehouse.
They're on a shipping dock just hanging out.
Open your record and like rat poop falls out or something. Like, oh, something that nested in here. But no, it's like...
Like, never happened.
Oh my God.
That didn't happen. But yeah, so it's been a lot of frustration, a lot of arguing things, but... By the time you hear this, we should have records in hand. We're waiting to get the word. We're going to pick them up either day after tomorrow or this coming Friday, which will be March 1st.
Life in a band, you guys, sometimes stressful.
Right. Sometimes you're freaking out about having to store these records for 3 months before they're released to, oh my God, please be here in time.
Right.
Which also led us to the fact that we gave them a deadline on wanting the test pressings because we're like, dude, you're going to kill us for our release. They didn't meet it. So then we dropped another $1,200 with disc makers to have 100 records made through them. The Econo version, which actually costs more than the other version, but it's fine. Plain black, 140 grams of vinyl. Mwah. Just want to make sure we had something by the time we got to our release date because we didn't want to have people go, really? Again?
Right.
Like, we keep giving y'all stuff. It's bad when it's people are just like, again? Like, I gave you all this money for a record and I haven't seen it. Hey guys, like,
a funny story.
It's not us. And it's like, maybe it is. Make better decisions.
It's true. Like, we need to vet our companies better.
I need to remember who John and Rebecca used. They made their order in the end of October, beginning of November. They had test presses by December. They already have their double album in hand.
Twice as much album.
Which, oddly enough, features artwork from the one and only Mr. Daniel Torres. I know. He's quickly becoming like the Raymond Pettibon of our scene here. He's like, every album cover is going to be like it's a Dan Torres cover.
It's a DT original.
Creation.
Whoa. And that's what's up. So anyway, that's the drama of it all, but it's out. If you hear this, it should be out. I may have to do some last minute edits and take out the part. And you'll hear like this weird volume shift of like, coming soon. But, we hope it'll be here. And that's the drama around the album. But the other thing is, man, we made it. We're excited. Put in a lot of good work on it. I'm happy with it. Everybody did pretty well.
Sounds pretty cool.
And we got the test pressings in. I hadn't listened to it in months. Put it on and it was like, ooh, okay, this actually does sound good.
This is decent.
There's this cool thing when you make a record where you're mixing it and everything and you're like, you hear everything. You're like, oh man, that pluck was a little hard. Can you hear that? Look, here's here's the thing. Watch that. Watch the EQ. See that? See that spike? Oh, the whole record's trash now.
Start over.
How do I go in and I like subtractively EQ out this like a pick attack that was too much? And Kim's standing there like, I don't hear it. Just nothing. I hear nothing.
Yeah.
And then you go through and you do it. Then you send off. You don't listen to it for 3 months and your brain forgets where all of that was. And it all sounds good.
So the mixing and mastering is torture, and then you walk away from it for 3 months, and
which has only been about 1.5.
Still,
but we took. I guess it was October, November. About 4 months we didn't listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we released some singles. We listened to those, but
Yeah.
I didn't listen. Yeah, they just come out. I don't listen to them. I do listen to 25, 30-second intervals on Instagram. When I
You're
put
always
in like a
posting them.
clip. Yeah, it's like,
Oh,
all right,
dude,
clip
Dan
this
loves
on.
the 30-second intervals of songs.
It's obnoxious.
Oh.
Especially when you're in bed at night. It is a good,
Just
like,
slightly.
it's a good thing. Like, if you're trying to be quiet at night and that kicks on, it's like, oh yeah, let me turn that off before I start porn. So it kind of, that's a nice touch.
No, dude. Like, Dan is notorious for, like, when he's on tour, like, that's what he does, is, like, 25 to 30-second snippets of songs from the performance.
That's all you need. It's the a la carte life.
Hopefully he got the good part of the song.
But that's what the internet is now, is little clips of things.
I know, he was
You can't watch
ahead of his
anything in
time.
its
Yeah, ahead of the
entirety
curve.
anymore.
Like, Dan was the trendsetter.
He was TikTok when TikTok wasn't cool.
right, he was Vine.
Oh man, that was like the other day, like yesterday. But when John got the video and like I looked up, we were practicing, so we're doing a full band show on March 9th at the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe. Cut that at the Old Quarter. Joel's working very hard to
I was
get
going
rid
to
of
say,
the
I'm glad you took off the acoustic
cafe part.
I've been to that place like over 30 years, and I've never once ordered a meal there.
No, but the acoustic happens more often than not.
Right.
But not at this show. It'll be
So there's no
electric.
fruit medleys?
No, nothing. Not even a charcuterie board.
Yeah, man, there weren't even chips there the other day.
Yeah, like how do you call it a cafe?
Like you could just get those sandwiches that come in like a vending machine.
Those would be nice. I'd like those.
And
then zhuzh them up with like a little olive.
Did they ever serve food? Do we know? Like, have you gone back through the history of it?
Yes, as someone who's working on the documentary of the place, it was called. So here's how Rex did it. He had the Old Quarter in Houston. It shut down for 15 years, I think. And then he was driving through Galveston, as the story goes, and they were clearing the place out, that place that was called the Acoustic Cafe. And it had the girl painted, like looking off like the muse or whatever. And she was looking off and it said Acoustic Cafe under it. And Rex was like, I'll take it. How much to rent the place? It was in a price he could get. Paid down the rent, had him put the stools back inside. It had his jet come and paint Old Quarter above the Acoustic Cafe logo, which she had already painted.
Okay.
So he got the person who painted the Acoustic Cafe's logo and it went out of business, just put Old Quarter above it. It was a good enough logo. Leave it. I'll take it.
So it was like the original Spirit Halloween store.
Yeah, kind of. It would be like if it was Spirit, like, if Toys R Spirit or something. Because it was just, they just came in.
Spirit R Us.
Right.
Old Quarter Planet Hollywood.
Oh, dude.
But right, at no point did Rex ever serve food.
Okay.
And really, the people who used to be on, you did not want any of them to serve food.
Well, it's a tiny little place. Yeah.
I mean, at the Christmas party, it's like a cafe. There's food they bring in. It's free, but it's more of a buffet. It's like a Old Quarter corral kind of thing happening.
So we're
man.
doing a show on March the 9th at the Old Quarter.
Yeah, well, we're doing a full band show with Joel Mora, who's the owner and operator of the Old Quarter, also drummer of the Hates, also our episode 3 guest.
Yeah.
And we were practicing on Sunday.
We were. And, and I was talking about, man, we went way off.
We did.
It's fine.
Sorry.
So the point was, John did this video, and he came in, and we'd already had just some random dude walking because the door wasn't locked. And it was great because he walked in, he stood there for a while, and he was like kind of nodding, like, yeah, dude, rock. And then like we finished the song, and he just gave us like a thumbs up and walked out. And everyone was like, is there just a dude here?
It's just a random dude. Cool.
So then John records outside and comes in, and the moment I look up and see him, I'm like, bro. So it's like right in the
wrong
middle
chord.
of this clip, it's like, jing, jing, everything's together, and all of a sudden it's like, brrrr. It wasn't as bad in the video. You hear it.
Yeah.
But like in my brain when it happened, it's like, that was a good 30 seconds of like chord just ringing out. Wrong.
It wasn't.
Dang it.
But it was hilarious. I looked up and I was like, oh, wait, that's John. Then I didn't want to cut Kim off while she's singing, like, don't post it. But it was too late. I was like, did you post it? Yeah. So but
We're
it was
human.
a 30-second clip.
We make mistakes.
So when we started this, we were like, how are we going to, how's this going to be structured? We're doing very bad structured for this one. But it's
Today.
okay. We're here to have fun. I'll edit it down and you'll be like, man, that was really concise.
It's like they know what they're doing.
So that gets us there. So we got the March 8th release. The March 8th is the release. March 9th is the full band show.
All right.
Yeah, March 8th is the release. It comes out everywhere.
Hell
If you,
yeah.
It'd already be too late, but those of you who got on Bandcamp got it on March 1st. Thank y'all for being early orders.
Y'all the real MVPs.
It's another reason why it's been a bummer. This album's taken, we haven't been able to push it as hard. So like pre-sales have not been as awesome as they were last time because
It's
can't
hard to
really push a
sales of
record.
albums you don't have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to bum everybody out again. But that's it. That's changed. Now we're pushing it. selling it will give us money. But anyway, that's not the whole point of this thing. So roundabout, so we started making the record. We got all the music done, and I sent it to Dan. And I think that was about it. Like I need to pull up like the text messages, but you didn't ask me any questions or anything. It was like less than last time.
So you sent me most of the tracks for the album, but I only took 3 of them as inspiration, which you haven't mentioned the name of the album.
It's called Here But Gone, which was perfect for the album. And again, we let Dan name the album.
Yeah.
And
Well, Dan did Here and Gone, and then I think Kim was like, how about But?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if it comes to But, Kim's like, what up?
What? Wow.
But.
But yeah, it was, I guess, a nice relationship since I had worked on the first album. And you guys gave me some creative freedom. Truth be told, I knew what I wanted to do from day one, but I didn't know how to pull it off. And then I was surprised by the new deadline that I was given, which was my birthday week. And
Inspiration.
Sam, the slave driver, just like texted you and was like, hey.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Get to work.
So it's to be said that if you plan everything, you only need 48 hours to execute, which I don't know if that's giving away anything, but I knew what I wanted to do. I did it, I edited it, and I presented it, and luckily you loved it.
Cool.
And it's always, nobody knows like the tenseness that comes with like, all right, man, I'm sending this to you. And it's like, oh shit, I have to open this and see what Dan did.
Right.
I know Dan worked hard. And it's like, oh God.
Which is like getting naked in front of someone, which you don't know what they're going to say. Like, don't fake
that's a really
it.
good
Right.
comparison.
Then you got to walk out and you got to go like,
Is it warm enough?
right. Like, I don't,
Right.
I'm not really feeling that. And then it was like, I opened it and I was like, I don't care what anyone else in this band thinks. That's it. Like, it's done.
Dude, I think it's just funny because for knowing Dan as long as we went to college together, we were in art school together, and we both work the exact same way. Like, if you give me a month to do it, I'm going to wait until 2 days before it's due to start it. Like, I cannot tell you how many times Dan and I would be in the studio at like 7 hours before critique working on stuff just because we'd screwed off until the last minute. And we got some of the best stuff because that pressure is what makes people like us work. Like, it's not, I don't need time to refine it. I've got my idea, I've got my vision. I just need to buckle down and have a reason to get it done. And that's how Dan works. And it's funny watching it.
And honestly, shout out to my mama for helping out with that, because it wasn't going to be an easy photo shoot to do when you're working with wind and clouds and water
and the tide.
The most impressive part is you found one of the, so if you happen to grow up on the Gulf Coast, there are maybe 3 to 5 days a year that the water's clear.
Actually, as the new certified tourism ambassador of Galveston, there have been more blue days than brown days over the last 3 years.
Look at this guy.
Well, I haven't been out. I haven't lived at the beach. When I was a kid. I mean, it was like,
Always right.
it's clear today. It's clear. And we'd run out. Everyone would be like, oh God, I can see.
I can see my feet.
It's amazing. It was like, it was not very often. There were points you went out during the winter. It's clear. Like just, breezing. But, once you're out there long enough. But again, winter at the beach is like the Atlantic's colder in the middle of the summer. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got lucky. My procrastination lined up with the perfect cloud day and the best low tide opportunity that I could have asked for.
Awesome.
And it did. It came out beautiful, man. Like even the videos, like, man, it came out like it looked really cool. Like it came out perfect. And you shot that with just your iPhone, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I have an assortment of cameras that I love that I haven't really touched in over 8 years, especially with traveling. I just learned to make use of a camera phone. It does what you need and it's convenient. And lately, I mean, 12 megapixels is really all you need unless we're doing a billboard. And the album art for the previous album was done on an iPhone. So was this one. So was John and Rebecca's.
Music in the Minor League brought to you by Apple Products.
Right.
Hiss, boo. But yeah.
They gonna pay.
No, the cameras are great. And one of the really cool things about Dan's album was it initially had our name and the album title on the cover, but then we just decided to get rid of it because the artwork was so good it needed to be its own piece.
Yeah, and truth be told, the original idea for that album was inspired by one of my favorite album artists, who is Storm Thurgeson. He was responsible for some of your favorite albums from the 70s, 80s, and aughts up until his death. One of his more recent albums was Francis the Mute from the Mars Volta. He's responsible for Dark Side of the Moon, his Wish You Were Here, and a handful of other albums that...
He did Amagama too, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's on my for future reference, yeah.
And on most of his albums, I'd say 90% of them, there was no text. I like that an album can be music and a piece of art. Truth be told, a handful of friends that bought your other album that I got to do artwork for don't own record players, but they wanted to support the band and have art that they like.
And you know,
Really
man,
cool. I didn't know that.
when you're in the music
Shout out Sasha Francis.
business, you just want to sell it however you can. So if we sell it for Dan's art, that's fine.
Hey, you know what? If albums weren't art, they wouldn't sell 12 by 12 frames.
Right, we don't know if it's an art buy or a music buy. Whatever, you bought it.
And then you up the game by doing that limited edition vinyl.
Right? With
Which-
the Coke bottle. When Coke bottle clears, it's like beach glass. I was like, what would be something that would follow with that? It's better than a gray album or like a weird milky blue or something. I was like, we'll go. It's like clear. You can kind of see through. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's cool.
I haven't seen it in person, but I still like it.
Me neither.
We haven't either.
We've seen the black test pressing version, which is cool. It sounds great. There's no art to it.
We do have another artist's Coke bottle clear, though. So we
Oh, yeah,
kinda
the
know
color
what it's gonna
looks
look
cool.
Like, but
We
we
should
haven't
know
seen our
soon.
label on it.
Real soon.
I believe.
So that's exciting. It's kind of funny talking about deadlines, people delivering. So one of the interesting things that bits of trivia about our record is we got Liz to play on it once again, and she's in the middle of like going to get her master's degree. So it was like, okay, yeah, I think I can knock this out before classes start. And she got like one song done. And then it was like, hey, man, we're getting close to the deadline. Like, just let us know. And then it was like, all right, cool. The files are in there at lunch. Like, you're ready to go. Sorry, I blah, blah, blah. I don't know if she knew or not, but you could see like the file names were the date and
Timestamps.
time. And I was like, oh, like, dude, she recorded all of these in under an hour, except for Think Tough as Nails she had already done. But everything else she did over some time. But that one she had just done like all of them in one afternoon, like 1 hour.
That's just crazy.
Like between 11 and 12 a.m. on the date. And it was just like, okay.
Wait, is that how you're supposed to do it?
I mean,
And
when time is money, yes.
And anyone who listens, like, yeah, she knocked it out of the park. So you're like,
No kidding.
and there were a couple songs that every time we do cut and piece a few things, like, oh, I like this verse, because she'll go through and play different pieces. But I want to say it was like last night in Kansas, we pretty much left
was
one of
so
her
much of
takes
that.
completely alone. It was just like, well, that's the take. We may have changed one little piece, but it was almost completely unaltered.
Yeah, there was not a lot of editing we needed to do with those.
I heard she drank one of them teas from Panera Bread first, so
Oh,
Right.
supercharged.
Got ready to go. I'm stoked.
I can taste my heart. By the way, we are no way condoning the excessive consumption of supercharged drinks by Panera Bread.
Please God.
Well, that's kind of the thing. It's like, it's up to you. I mean, I'm a caffeine addict. I know where my limit is,
I can quit when I want.
right?
You know what his limit is?
What?
When his whole body starts to shake like this.
True, that's a good sign.
That's I mean, if you can get, it's like that, I can't remember what show that was where it's like the thing starts vibrating so fast you can't really tell it is. That's how you operate, man. That's how you're supposed to operate, right?
That's level.
Right. It's like, all right, we're humming, dude. We're going, ready to go.
That's high, is what that is.
That's the universal sound.
Like, I'm
I
ready
think
to
Tyler
go.
Childers spoke of that.
You're supposed to have this, like, sounds like there's like a vibrator in the back of your ears the whole time of your life, or it's just like that's how it sounds for me. Like, I'm
Mine's like a high-pitched scream. I think it's my ears going.
right. That's from years of being like really loud bands.
Oh, God.
I have Gilbert Godfrey in mine.
Oh, man.
Dad, go and do art. Why have you not made the record, Dad? Like, oh God.
You gotta pick up the pencil if you want to create the art. It's like that.
Or is it the actual Gilbert Godfrey voice? It's like, hey, Dan,
This is Gilbert Godfrey.
it's Gilbert calling.
Really think you should get this work done. Just saying.
That was like finding out like Santa Claus wasn't real when you go find those old SNL clips. And it's like, hi, everybody. And you're like,
Wait, that
it
wasn't-
looks like Gilbert Godfrey.
Right.
But he doesn't sound
Who overdubbed this?
weird. He did ADR on Saturday Night Live.
Or when you find out that Mr. Rogers killed a ton of people, you're like, wow.
But you
I
know,
wish that was true. That's one of those urban legends that I wish was true.
It's not?
No.
No,
it's
it's
an
not.
urban legend.
I found out.
Oh.
I know. Just like I had this weird
terrible.
like myth in my head that Bob Ross used to get high off ether that he put on his like cloth that he cleaned his paintbrushes off. He didn't do that either. He was a
So
nice
while
guy.
we're debunking things, is it not true that your new album played backwards syncs up with Over the Top, the movie with Sylvester Stallone?
You mean when he turns his hat backwards, you know shit's about to get real?
we can neither confirm or deny this, that it starts directly at the first time you see him
Flip the hat.
flip the hat backwards.
I knew
Push
it.
play right at that moment. Things might, change your life.
Wow.
That was a soundtrack we should have brought up during episode 10. Over the Top.
Oh, God.
Oh, God, I'm trying to remember the song. They had like the best song.
Look, nothing's better than "You're the Best Around" from a Karate Kid.
Well, yeah.
I'm like,
Goonies good enough?
No,
That's a solid one,
it's
too.
not
It's
like
solid.
a song of triumph, is it?
Yeah, so like that song's a good like I'm gonna go get into mischief with my friends.
Goonies?
But
Yeah.
but like the best around is like you done won it. You
Right.
swept the leg. You won it, Johnny.
Right, you're doing that like you're all bowed up and you can't bend your knees and you're just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Hulk smash.
And your whole body's shaking.
oh, another Kenny Loggins.
Dude, Kenny Loggins is the man,
Meet
bro.
me halfway. Meet me halfway.
Oh my god, yes.
Across the sky.
I am
Dude.
such a fan of Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins, dude, the man he's just a soundtrack. It's what he is. I feel like his life is nothing but walking around in constant soundtrack mode.
Like Footloose is the soundtrack of my life,
True that.
for reals.
Or Randy Newman. Lady takes a bite of an apple.
Friend joke.
Yes. Exactly.
Don't get it.
Oh
What?
man.
I said friend joke. Don't get it.
Oh.
No, is it a movie? You know, I've never seen half the movies y'all talk about.
Oh.
You realize she's never seen Steel
so lame.
Magnolias, right?
I've seen Steel Magnolias.
Quit lying.
She was allowed to see that.
I was allowed to see Steel
Well,
Magnolias.
was it because Dolly Parton was in it?
Probably because it seemed wholesome.
It really was. It really was.
No, really.
Well,
Like
terms
I've
of
been
endearment?
very sheltered. That was rated R. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
that's a racy movie.
That was a
The Lambada.
ooh.
Sorry, no.
They don't leave room for the Holy Ghost. No.
I don't.
That lead character is wearing dungarees. We don't have that here in this household.
All right.
Shorts above your knees.
So since we like to do when Dan comes on, we're gonna do a best of like our favorite things.
Let's do this.
So we've talked enough about the record and all the insanity. We're like 30 minutes in. Of course, we're going to edit probably 10 minutes this out, but whatever. You're going to be like, it's only 21 minutes in. It's like, well, yeah, because we said a bunch of dumb shit you don't need to hear.
What?
A lot of it, yeah.
But before we get into the list, we have to once again say, Brightwire, here but gone. Everywhere. March 8th, everywhere you stream music. Albums,
physical
CDs, available now.
Oh, yeah.
Via our Bandcamp page. Artwork by Dan Torres of, was it Art by Nine? Is that what it is?
That's close enough.
Nine Art?
I don't know. I just use my name.
You started to just use your name? So
Yeah.
the 9 was a big deal. So,
I mean, 9 is a big deal, but
well, I know. Oh, okay. I get what the 9's about. Okay, never mind. Anyways, let's move on. Art by Dan. And that's it. Yeah, man. Pressed eventually by Gold Rush Vinyl out of Austin, Texas.
Hell yeah.
Use at your own risk. All right.
Damn, parting shot.
You know, if you got all the time in the world, they do great work.
You need to have that old sound of like shot going off. Pew! Like,
You know, that's why I did the papers hitting the table. I was trying to go with my, like old talk show guy. Like, anyways, tonight we got
10 reasons.
right, old Johnny Carson happening.
I like the beef Wellington of printing industry. It's good. You just got to wait.
But in the music world, most people are slackers. They can probably wait, and they have more money than we do. So like, yeah, we're going to get this pressed, and for this record we're releasing in 10 months. We're like, we don't get any money back until we have them. So we're a little more uptight than,
Yeah.
Just slightly. Band on a budget, yo.
With that said, if you tell someone you're going to do something in that kind of time and then you double it, you should
Kinda
be able
sucks.
to expect to have it. But anyways, enough of that. I may have to trim some of that, but probably not. So what we did is we decided we would sit down and bring up and discuss 5 album covers that we loved, that we thought were good album covers, or I kind of based mine off album covers I saw that was like, I saw that when I was a kid or now, and I bought that record.
Yeah.
So, do we know?
That was not the criteria that I used.
Well, that's fine.
So it's all right.
When we get to you can use your criteria.
Cool.
As a matter of fact, why not? Ladies first.
Oh, yeah?
What's your album?
I mean, I thought we were supposed to do top 5, so that's what
That's
I
fine.
did.
It just depends on how fast we go. If you talk for 20 minutes about your album cover, then no. But
I'm not going to talk 20 minutes about my album covers. You may do all of them all at once?
no, just do one.
Okay. So I just did them in sequential order.
That's fine. Whatever
Date
you're
order.
into, you can just do whichever one you want to talk about first.
But what's funny is the first one that I chose is the oldest one, but it's like the most recent one that I discovered. And it's the album cover for Fanny, their debut album from 1971, also called Fanny. And they were the first all-girl rock group in American music. They're kind of like really unknown, but they were all...
I know that album cover, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about them a couple years ago when I discovered them.
Okay.
And I just love how, it was like 71 and like it's a chick grabbing another girl's ass. you know?
That's
How provocative.
It's not like, well, it
Liberating.
was.
And it was a great documentary.
And it was
they were
a very
killer
good
band.
documentary.
Yeah.
I agree. Just very like strong and powerful woman kind of
Yeah.
vibe. I really like it.
All right.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Now,
that's it.
Dan, we'll go Dan next.
So I originally was coming to this podcast recording and going to play it off the cuff, but I feel pressured now and I'm frantically looking for the notes that I made.
Here we go.
So
So what we should do is
I'm going to skip to my best friend,
should go to
Michael, while I look through my phone.
Great. Now I get the pressure on me. No, I'm just kidding. I actually did my homework yesterday. And so the first album I picked was kind of the first album that I really kind of became aware of the influence like the art has on kind of grabbing you. You know, this is actually the first CD I ever bought. And like, it was just kind of like, I don't know, I'd heard one of the songs from this band and I was like, this is really good. I'd like to get some more of their stuff. And so this album came out in 94. It's The Offspring, Smash. All right. And like that album has probably some of their, I think there's some of their best songs that are on that album. But what was kind of cool is when I started looking at it, I didn't realize the guys who did the art direction for that album, it's Fred Hidalgo and Kevin Head. They did like artwork for Bad Religion, No Effects, Pennywise, Clawhammer, 10-Foot Pole, and Voodoo Glow Skulls. And because they were all those bands were on the same label,
Yeah.
so they were kind of like their in-house guys.
Like the Epitaph guy.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, that's really cool. And then I started like thinking about, I was like, well, that's why some of those other bands, their albums kind of spoke to me too, is because the same art directors were working with those bands.
Well, it's kind of cool because all those bands had very different album covers
Yeah.
too. I mean, Voodoo Glow Skulls were a lot of like drawn art.
Exactly. So I thought it was just kind of a neat thing. And like I said, that was the first album I ever bought, like went and bought my own money. And so that one will always kind of be that thing for me. Now back to you, Dan.
So I guess what I could have led off with is the obvious, which I think is probably on, I'd say 60% of everyone's favorite album covers, and it's the most iconic, which would be Storm Thorgenson's Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd.
yeah, dude.
I remember seeing that as a youth and not knowing what it meant, and then finally getting to hear that with headphones at my grandma's house with my uncle's copy of the album. And it was one of those old school record player / TV consoles / radios.
Yes.
And the cord was only about 3 feet long. So I sat on top of the speaker and listened to it. So not only was the music amazing, but the art in its simplest form made sense. It captured what you heard beautifully. And to this day, I think it is probably one of the most iconic covers. And the work that he did for Hypnosis out in the UK is timeless.
Did he do Animals?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the one I chose as my favorite. That's the one that caught me the most off guard. But to me, Animals is probably the best Pink Floyd album cover.
And it wasn't until the internet that you get to research and dig deeper
Right.
that I learned that he did Absolution by Muse. And I kind of backtracked and figured out that half the album art that I loved was created by one guy.
That's pretty awesome.
cool.
And his music choice and selections of bands was varied. I mean, you go from Muse to Mars Volta to Pink Floyd to Blink or the Star, which is a nice, obscure indie rock band. But the work that he did just kind of stands on its own. I mean, I can pick 5 of his works as my top, but I think just him in general
Yeah.
and Dark Side is probably my first choice.
It's interesting because I did not know what you were talking about. Googled it. I was like, oh yeah, I know that. Everybody knows that.
Oh yeah, that Prism's like that.
Yeah.
It's cool. All right, so I'll jump to my oldest one. I'll back up Dan. This isn't the first one I have on the list, but being a kid, I remember going to the store. My older brother was big into Pink Floyd and stuff. I didn't have any of their records. So I just went and started digging through the bin. I bought 2 of them from Sunrise Records. So I have my
Beaumont,
record player
Texas?
that I got, out of Beaumont. I got Relics, which was cool, but then the one that I got the most because it was cool is it was a double record and everything was Amagama. It was a double record. And I mean, just because it looked the coolest where you're like, oh, it's just like, it didn't seem all that impressive where you're like, oh, it's just a mirror. Then you start looking, it's like, oh, every one, people are in different spots. And it was like, oh, dude, whoa.
Right.
I wasn't even on hallucinogens as a kid. It blew my mind. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then I got home with it and I was like, at like 14, 15 years, it was a lot to digest musically. But I mean, to this point, like I remember being in a band, like a punk rock band, and we covered Astronomy to Mind. So it's a closer to a set, just this noisy mess. So that's where I'm going to follow. My first one that I remember buying, it's not the first time I bought a record off the cover, but it was the one that pops up of theirs.
Yeah.
And full transparency, some of these are CD album covers, not vinyl album covers, which I think makes a big difference because I grew up at the tail end of vinyl having power, and it's back into power again. But being able to look through a CD bin and just picking something out because it looked cool, I mean, that was half the draw of going into a music store.
Yeah, I think this is the only record that I'll do or album that I bought the first time ever on vinyl. So we were CD folks.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Kimberly, back to you.
Round
Well, I
two.
grew up across the street from like a much older family that had kids that were way older than us. But they also had a son that was my age. So they were having kids for like 25 years. They had the best album collection in the world, and they were super, super into Rod Stewart and Rick Springfield.
Solid.
Okay. I'm sure they were into other things. Those are the ones I remember, like the closest girl in age being into, and like her, like, you know, inviting me over and listening to records. And this one is one that we listened to a lot. It was my favorite Rick Springfield record cover, but its success hasn't spoiled me yet. And it's him with the dogs.
Let me see.
He's
Oh,
got his little dogs in the back seat, and he's the
Yes,
butler,
dude.
you know.
Oh,
He's
which
the
one's this? I
butler.
thought you were going to do Working Class Dogs.
Oh,
This
did
is-
you? Well,
which
that
one's
is my
this?
favorite, but this one's far more entertaining.
Yeah,
so.
that one's got a lot more going
His
on.
dogs are in the back of a limo, and he's the butler. It's awesome. Or I guess the limo
The driver.
Yeah. He was really into that dog, so it also makes me happy since, you know, we put Baxter on the cover. Like,
It works.
it's another favorite of mine.
Good dog cover, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then we want to go back to health.
Back to me. This one, yeah, I remember buying this one on CD, and this is one of those albums that, like, I'd kind of been kind of outlier fan of the band, but I remember when this album came out, like, just the packaging of it alone was like groundbreaking, and that's Tool Lateralis. I mean, that was just like the overlays. It was basically like an anatomy book.
Was this the 90s?
Yeah, this is Alex Gray did the artwork
Okay.
for it. And I mean, it was just like, holy crap! Like, and I mean, the album's great and that's cool and all, but the artwork, I mean, it's just like the fact that they let this guy just go ham with how he wanted to create this, you know, idea. It's like, holy crap! And like, it was executed really well. And just, I thought, like, wow, if you're gonna change the game, you know, if you're gonna be 10 years between albums, at least, like when you have a new one come out, it's like we're gonna do something unique, and they did. And I felt like that was, you know, something that stood out to me. So, yeah.
Can you imagine, like, having to reproduce all that, though?
Good God, no.
If it was multiple layers.
Yeah, I feel like the guys at the plant were like, what page am I doing today?
Right.
I don't know.
Who's going to put all this together when we're done?
Some poor bastard.
I know, it's where like Tool Records were just like, well, yeah, did y'all make anything? Because the artwork packaging alone was like, that's your whole budget.
Yeah, what's your cost per unit here, guys?
Right.
You think they still owe the record company?
No, not anymore. As they sold
That's sold in the millions.
they've
Okay.
kind of almost reached like a Grateful Dead status where they just can tour. I mean, they've been around like 30 years, but they own like their 5th album.
Right? Like, yeah.
I mean, they had like,
A 10-year hiatus.
yeah, like it happened pretty quick because they did like Undertow and Lateralis wasn't the Anima was the second one, right?
Yeah.
And then then it was like, okay, cool, we're good for a decade.
Literally a decade.
And then they did it and they just keep barely releasing records, but it's like they still tour all the time. Like, hey, we're going out and tour this, and they sell out like all these giant shows still. It's like,
Well, now the big thing, too, is like they'll stop the show if you start recording at their shows.
Oh, yeah.
Like, except for when it gets to the very end, the encore, Maynard allows you to take your phone out and record for, I think it's 46 and 2 is what they end on.
okay.
And I was like, wow. When you talk about Tool and their fans being tools, wow. Like, okay.
But it kind of makes where people still come see all the shows. There's not all this video out where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I saw the video from Insert Festival. And
There's still the excitement of seeing them live.
Yeah.
all right, now back to Mr. Daniel Torres.
So, admittedly, I had my first boy-girl attraction to Sade's Love Deluxe, and it is simple and beautiful, and the music matched. And I think as a preteen, you're drawn to it because it was something that you weren't supposed to look at, but the music was gorgeous, and I can't think of a better female vocalist who has aged beautifully, and that album cover can be released now and still turn heads.
Yeah.
No kidding. I had to look it up.
That's why, while not chosen by me for the podcast, but we always talk about that with Health when he got here. It was like, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass Band, like Whipped Cream and Other Delights. Like, I remember being a
Yes.
kid seeing that at the record store. And I'm like I shouldn't be seeing oh God, I have to tie my jacket around my waist and walk around the record store.
I got a baby boner.
I'm just telling you, man, at 14, it was like, oh God, like should not be here. Like, oh God, I'm so embarrassed. But yeah,
Sam had to take off his pants and jacket.
I have to say, I think for me, it was just watching So Hard to Hold and seeing Rick Springfield's butt. I was like, ooh, tinglies.
Something's different, mama.
Yeah.
All right, so my next one that probably, I'm just trying to go semi-chronologically, was Dinosaur Jr. Green Mind. Do you not see? It's a great black and white cover. I think it's like a photo from like the 60s or 70s of just like this, looks like 11-year-old girl smoking a cigarette on the beach. And it was just like, whoa, that looks true. Like, I probably want to hear that.
Right? Something's different.
And that was my first Dinosaur Jr. record because I just saw that and I was like, oh, dude, like, I just, something about that. Like, I want to buy that record. People smoking's badass. So, like, especially kids.
God.
Kids smoking. You had me. All right. Number 3 from Kimberly.
So number 3 is, like, to me, one of the most iconic album covers. And it's one that when I got it, I stared at it for hours while I listened to the music. And then it all got taken away. Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual.
Okay.
Like, it really looks like she's standing on a set of a movie somewhere. And everything about the background is so interesting. And then she's just like that iconic Cyndi Lauper pose.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, her crazy hair and her amazing outfits and no shoes. I always love that.
I also thought it was cool, like with Cyndi Lauper, like her label really trusted her.
Right.
Because they never tried to like fit her into like how they did with like Tiffany and Debbie Gibson.
Yeah.
Like it was like, no, she's got such a, I think it's because she was such a strong vocalist. They're like, look, whatever she does, people are going to get like dig it.
It's super unique. Like she doesn't sound like anybody else.
And the fact like she came out around the same time as Madonna. And like, it was like Madonna had to like, Madonna sounds okay, but she had to have the sexy part. Like she had to have that to be success. Like that's how she got her foot over. But Cyndi Lauper just like has a voice. Like you're just like, holy crap.
Right.
Like, and it's always been so funny. And I feel like it's always been great that every time they've allowed her to just be her. They've never tried to bottle her and put her, you know, into a corner, which I thought was great.
Yeah, I never even really thought about how old she must have been when she broke either.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whatever it was, she handled it really well at her age because, you know, she didn't go all crazy like others have
and
at
then
that
you like
age.
hear her talk and she has that straight up like New York accent.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude,
Yeah.
she kick your ass. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I don't want to get in a fight with her.
Hell no,
I wanna meet
dude.
her in a
Pulls
dark
a
alley.
razor blade from under her tongue and slashes you. Like,
I mean,
good.
she wouldn't even have to. She just have a look at you, I would imagine.
True that.
Sorry, Miss Lauper.
All right.
Sloper.
All right, Dan.
number 3.
Oh, no, that's right. We're back to health. That's
We're
right.
back to me. Number 3 for me. This was my first kind of double album I ever bought, and I would like to say that I bought it on double vinyl, but I did not. I bought it on double cassette because that's how broke I was at the time. Ooh. And that's Smashing Pumpkins' "Melancholy and Infinite Sadness," and that album, just the album art itself. I remember when it came out, being like, because I remember going and buying that album along with "One Hot Minute" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I bought both of them just because I knew the bands. I was like, not a huge fan, but the Melancholy one, man, just the art of it, and then when you opened it up, all the cool like hidden things in the artwork and stuff, it was really like, as a kid I was like, whoa, this is legit. And the album's great, and the music, you know, I was like, whoa, I feel like that was like their pinnacle as far as Smashing Pumpkins are concerned. And I'm sure there's some Smashing Pumpkins people who'd be like, you're full of shit, but no, that really was like, I feel like once you put out a double album like that, there's no place else to go. Like that album was start to finish, every side of those cassettes had good tracks on it. I didn't speed through any of them.
See, the key there, man, is Smashing Pumpkins did have really, Gish is killer artwork. Mm-hmm. What's the one, Adore?
Yeah.
The dark, like that had some really cool artwork. That's about where I draw. That's the end of like the real.
Yeah, once they kicked Darcy out of the band,
yeah,
it was like, okay, this is getting weird now.
Yeah, Siamese Dream was the most unimpressive album cover because it was just like the two
little kids.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, yeah, it's okay, but like Gish looked wild with all the different colors.
Yeah.
And I like the whole like noir thing of Adore as well. So
this must be a gift and a curse having myself on a podcast with my best friend, because I was going to pick that one.
We can share it. It's 2 albums.
But I will segue into a 2-part. So I knew who 9 Inch Nails was, but it wasn't music that I was really allowed to listen to. And when Downward Spiral came out, it was this abstract Cy Twombly, Jackson Pollock anger, and I didn't know what the music was going to sound like because all I had heard was one track off a Pretty Hate Machine that they showed at 120 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And the art was phenomenal, and that kind of led me to appreciate album art as an art, because his music not only expressed how angry he was, but it also was an outlet. And David Fincher was inspired, used his music for Seven, and Seven is one of the first movies that I paid attention to the opening credits because they were very meticulous, in particular, about making sure that the text for the opening credits matched the mood of the movie and Nine Inch Nails' score.
Well,
Trent Reznor's score.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Get it right.
I was just thinking, I saw a preview for that the other day. I was like, I need to rewatch that.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
Also, it's funny that like you picked a Nine Inch Nails. Don't we have like an unspoken agreement that whichever one of us dies first gets to have Leaving Hope played at their funeral?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good to know. Now we have it documented.
But yeah, man, like they always had a lot of cool artwork too. Like Downward Spiral had a lot of weird. Oh, even the videos. Like they actually spent a lot more time on like the
Closer video.
Yeah.
At midnight, right after the Tool video.
Yes, dude.
I think one drunken night I was going through Ian through like, dude, I check out these videos from the 90s, man. They were crazy. Like videos were just like getting weird.
And then Jamiroquai.
Dude, that's still a great video.
Was it March of the Pigs? Like that was a weird video.
Yeah.
It's all like live, but the way they did the camera shakes
Yes.
and all the graininess at times, like that was a really trippy video too. But anyways,
All right.
Now it's to me. So I'm going to move to one. Actually, no, I'll go ahead and stick with another high school one. So this was just a cover that a band that I like really liked, and another band I saw the cover and I just bought it was the Suicide Machines, Destruction by Definition.
Okay.
It's a live shot. Everyone on stage like jumping.
Oh, yeah.
And it just looked like it's like, dude, 16 years old, like punk rock kids. Like, I want to be at that show.
That's where I'm going to be.
Like that show looks like where I want to be. So obviously this album is what I want to listen to.
Exactly.
And when I wasn't really feeling Less Than Jake, I got that, and then it kind of got me into more like punk ska stuff, which for better or worse,
We've all had a punk
See, I would not
ska.
have been allowed to have bought that album by the Suicide Machines. No.
it had been, well, at that point you could have, you were an adult by the time it came out.
Oh, yeah. I guess
That was
I could have.
96. I think that was
Right,
96.
96, I would have been, like,
97,
23.
96, I think, because
Yeah.
I remember I saw them like senior year.
Yeah, I was 22 and you were a senior. Okay, never mind.
That was just one of those weird things
And
where I
here's to
bought
you,
that.
Mrs. Robinson.
I bought that CD because again, I liked the album cover, and I guess I don't know how I even saw it at a record store.
Wow.
And then they played Fitzgerald's like 3 weeks later in front of me. I was like, dude, we're coming from Beaumont to there. I was like, well, I'll meet y'all there. That's fine. And then ended up going and they killed. And I was like, all right, cool.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
All right, back to Miss Kimberly.
All right. My next one is Consent to Treatment by Blue October. Is like this really cool. It is the lead singer of the band, but like they did like a thing with his face where it looks kind of like a little
Yes.
a map maybe, or like miniatures. Their bassist Matt Nevesky designed that, took it, and I was reading somewhere that he was inspired by the Sledgehammer video.
Oh.
Sorry, the Sledgehammer video and
Yes.
some other Peter Gabriel kind of esque stuff. Which to me, if I'm like listening to an album over and over again, like it's that cover is going to be burned into
Yeah.
my brain, and that one's easy to remember.
That's legit. And they're a Houston band.
Yeah, shout out to the Houston band.
Right. Okay.
All
So
right.
number 4 for me. All right. So this one is, if you grew up in the 90s, you probably had this poster, and that's Green Day Dookie, the most iconic of the 90s. I mean, it's one of those album covers. Like, the more you look at it, the more you find in it. It's literally dogs dropping crap on people. Like,
But it definitely has almost like a Where's Waldo vibe.
Oh,
where it's like,
100%.
there's all these weird things happening.
yeah, dude. Like, the more you look at it, like, it's on a whole other level, man. And it's all hand drawn, and it's almost like your high school friend who had a trapper keeper and had a page in it that you started doodling on, and they're like, dude, that's it. Let's just give me that. I'm taking it.
To make it sound more highbrow, it's like a high schooler after seeing Hieronymus Bosch painting.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. The Garden of Earthly Delights.
And it's like with dog shit version.
What's coming out of his butt?
I don't want to talk about it, okay? It's a metaphor for life. But yeah, it's always just been a really cool album cover. And, I remember buying that poster, my mom just looking at me like, really? Like, yeah, it's awesome.
This is the best.
I can't believe that album is 30 years old 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I guess I'm feeling older than I am. Like, that's it. It's only 30.
Only 30 at this point?
Sam's had a rough couple months. He's feeling real old today.
It was really, was it Nimrod? The second one was where it was like, actually, no, I take that back. It was Dookie, because that's where we're like, we figured out When I Come Around.
Yep.
And dude, that like changed our lot. Like, dude, look, we're like real musicians now.
Hell yeah, dude.
I could play a
And
song.
then, just so y'all know, if you drop down half a step, it's Glycerine by Bush.
It is.
It's a little different strum pattern with the chord progression as a half step lower, same progression.
Yep.
So now you know. So you could go from like impressing your buddies, and any girls walk up, it was like drop half a step. It's your skin.
Dude.
I'm thinking.
So like, I have like a dumb moment with something like that. Like, I saw a meme the other day, and it was like this person at the optometrist, and like, all right, read the lines, and like, I'm looking at it, and the punchline is it's like DAE, something like that, and it's like, this is American Girl by Tom Petty.
That's great.
And so guess what I did? Got my guitar out and was like, let me see. It was. So now I know how to play American Girl by Tom Petty.
There you go.
R.I.P.
All right, gone too soon.
All right, Dan, you're up.
So it took me a long time to realize that Purple Rain was a movie, because it came out when I was 5, and that's probably not something that my parents would have let me watch. But I bought the cassette a couple years after that movie when I was 8 or 9 from a Woolworth, and the music was amazing, and the album art didn't make sense to me. It had flowers. It had a man dressed in colonial purple clothes riding a motorcycle, and all of it didn't make sense, but it had a vibe, and it felt like the toughest soft thing I had ever seen.
Man, I kind of forgot about that flowery border because you don't
Yeah.
see it
Oh, yeah, it's like
online
bad
when you're Googling
wallpaper.
that.
Yeah, dude, because like when you see the T-shirts, it's all cropped out now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Because kids are now wearing Purple Rain T-shirts in school.
I know. I go to college. I see them every day. And
you're
I'm
like,
like,
"I
you don't know that
remember."
band?
I remember when that album came out.
Don't forget to drink your Ovaltine.
You
Don't
got
forget
that
to
at
put on your
Target.
rubbers.
Your dad bought you that at Target.
It's all right. At least kids
Right.
have access to stuff.
That's not first pressing.
But no, I do remember that album was so iconic. And you remember the double poster like the flip out poster that were we both sexually confused by Prince?
I think we were.
Yeah,
Did we just bond?
for real.
Yeah.
We may have to go deeper than 5 because we are taking forever. But
I can
I'm
go
like-
6.
I know. I'm like, well, at least do 6. There's one I can't not say.
Okay.
And really, it's not even any. I'm going to go with one specific record just because it was the one I spent more time as a kid just staring at. But really, any of their discography. Dude, Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time.
Oh yeah, dude.
Every album cover was so
Exactly,
fucking
dude.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, they really did. They were like right up there with like, dude, their album art was just like all the different Eddies were just. But dude, the one where he's got like all cyborg with like the thing up, you see the
Yes.
hand just reaching up, like that was Somewhere in Time was not my favorite one musically, but it is my favorite one. Just like that album cover blew my mind as a child.
I wasn't allowed to listen to that.
Me neither, but
But those of
still
you,
thought it was
we'll
cool.
post it. You should definitely look that up.
But what Mama don't know.
She will find out in my book.
Oh, Mama always finds out.
Oh boy.
All right, back to Kim.
Is it really me again?
Yeah.
I guess my last one is. I only had 5, you guys. So
You can think of something else.
my last one is probably my favorite because it's the most recent, and I'm not even really much of a pop music fan. I'm really not much of a. I just don't get on a bandwagon very easily. But when you're as badass as Lizzo,
Oh yeah.
and then she put your fine black ass naked on an album cover,
Dude, she's so beautiful.
and just to me that's just like, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm beautiful. Fuck you. And
Well,
I
she
respect
has the
that.
chops.
Yeah.
Like it's not bullshit, dude.
No.
Like because here's a funny story. Amber went to her like first kind of big show in Houston after that first single blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Amber went to was it at the Bayou Theater or whatever it's called now, and so she gets into that show and she said, dude, the woman's up there just destroying it, singing, and then she comes out with her flute and fucking lays down a flute solo and just tears it
Like
up.
nobody's business.
Yeah, and it's like it's not bullshit. That's like
Yeah.
she's like yes, she's a big girl, but man, she brings it. Like
Yeah, I can't do anything like that. I respect you for like, being able to write songs that appeal to the masses like that, and then fucking get out there and dance your ass off and
Yeah.
sing and throw yourself naked on your album cover. I love you, Lizzo.
And make your dancers go to creepy like
Okay, like I said,
strip clubs.
Hey, we can't all be
not-
perfect,
not-
okay?
we
You know.
can't-
Nah, I know, yeah, whatever.
saying.
I'm just being mean to Kim.
Okay.
All right, Help, you're up.
All right, so this is my late entry into this because I wasn't planning on doing 5, but I got the 5th one. This is an album, man. I used to see it in my uncle's like collection of albums, and I never really thought anything of it until one day I was like, let me see what this is. And the album is Free Your Mind by Funkadelic.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not familiar with this album cover, it's a blue album cover with a beautiful mahogany lady on it. And when you open it up, she is butt naked. Like, it is her, it's Free Your Mind and your ass will follow. And so, not to be confused with Free Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow by In Vogue, but that's where that came from. But I remember that album being like, I was like, what the, oh my God.
Wow.
I feel some type of way.
Yeah,
You
Parliament and Funkadelic. I mean, Maggot Brain, just the lady
dude.
coming out of the dirt. Like, I mean, they had some killer album art.
Yeah, and that one just
Damn.
catches you off guard because it looks so, So I can't imagine people that bought it, like when it came out and they get home, like, oh no. Like, where do I hide
Bring
this?
it back.
That's right. There's a crack in this album.
Oh my God.
All right, Miss Dan.
And on that note, this isn't one of my picks, but it reminded me of a Christmas gift I got this past Christmas. I got gifted the vinyl from Janelle Monáe's recent album. And she's gorgeous. The album cover is beautiful. You open it up and it is her boobs. And that's it.
Oh.
Just her boobs. So for that alone, I think it paid homage
It does.
to that.
100%.
And the album's spectacular. But now I have this beautiful artwork to display.
Do you also have a favorite naked album cover since all of ours were just... We're just talking about new
I mean, I
ladies.
was talking about Whipped Cream and Other Delights, which was not necessarily new, but it was,
It's pretty close, man.
yeah, it's a thing, but yeah, and then I'm just, yeah.
All the ones that make us feel dirty. Saved them to the end.
But you'd be surprised how many there are. Was it Halsey? Is that her name? Like
Halsey.
Halsey, yeah, she did the whole like topless, or like, was she breastfeeding on the cover?
She,
Go, ladies.
I think she is.
Yeah, with like, so it's just like,
And that was produced by Trent Reznor.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just like whatever. I remember seeing that and I was like, dude, right on, good for you.
Fuck yeah.
So my number 5 comes from my ultimate favorite band. Stanley Don Wood did the work for Radiohead's OK Computer. And that album came out right after I graduated high school. When you're in that 13th grade, which is freshman year of college, and you don't know how to be an adult and you don't want to be a kid anymore. And that album art is just this cold mess and all these disconnected doodles. And like Help said, it was like an adult trapper keeper with just marks of angst, depression, and excitement. And he has stuck with them throughout the rest of their albums from that album and put out some spectacular work.
Hell yeah, dude.
All right, then my next one, I go. I had a teacher give me a care package, or he mailed it to me after I graduated high school. An English teacher of mine, because we used to talk music. He was a big Tool guy, but he didn't send me a Tool, thankfully. But he sent me a bunch of stuff. I think I mentioned this during the music, where he sent me like the shellac Melvins tape and stuff. Then I went to buy my first Melvins album on my own. I bought Houdini because it had like the coolest artwork, which is even cooler because it's from Austin artist Frank Kosick, who's just a hell of an artist over the years, done like a lot of work for people. But it's like the boy and the girl with the two-headed dog, and it was kind of like the, Houdini thing. So that's one of the ones I'd point to. It's just great. And really, it kind of sums up to me like 90s art between that and like Uncle Charlie and people like that kind of really colorful, really kind of whimsical, just oddball, like old. It looks like old carnival art kind of, but it's just like done in weird ways. So I'm going to go with, Melvin's Houdini.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I know that album. That's super iconic, man.
Yeah, and Frank Kosick just like...
Well, and Frank Kosick, what's cool about him is all of his poster art that if you've been to any shows at some point, you've seen Kosick art.
Yeah.
You don't even know it.
Did he do a green or
Yes.
Offspring?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he did an Offspring.
Yeah, he did a lot. He actually had like a record label for a while.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things you ever get a chance to listen to, this local Austin band, Fuck Emos, had an album. And when Frank signed them, their lead singer had some drug issues, and he wrote a song about the night that he stole Frank Kosick's bike and sold it for drugs. And he confessed to this on the record that Frank Kosick put out.
Oh, God.
So when he listened to the record, there's a song there called Frank's Bike about him stealing Frank's bike from the Gate Club and selling it for drugs. So that's
Did
a
he at
good
least
bit
get
of
good
trivia.
drugs from it?
But I mean, I'm sure for Russell's were Hypnol or something. So yeah. But it was just hilarious. I was like, I couldn't imagine you're putting out a record for someone you get it. It's like stole Frank's bicycle.
What are the chances of another guy being named Frank and missing a bicycle?
Right.
Let's see if he listens to this.
Right. That's why you know if he did listen to the album.
That is you know what? Yeah, at least your record exec listened to your album.
So that's a good bit of
Punched you in the
trivia.
mouth, but hey, you listened.
All right. Now we're going to loop it back around to Kim.
I don't have another one, remember?
Was that only 5?
I did
We already
five.
did 5?
Yeah, we already did 5.
No.
Yeah, we did
have
5.
2 left, I thought. No, maybe I only got 1 left. Okay.
Can
Do we
I
have
tell
any-
you what
do we
I
have
think-
any honorable mention? I'll do some quick
I've got
honorable
an
mentions.
honorable mention, yeah. This is kind of a mashup of 2 artists. It's Khruangbin and Leon Bridges, Texas Sun and Texas Moon. Those 2 albums together, like just the look of them, they're really like they just drew you in. And it's one of those times that where when you play the album, you feel that the artist really did listen to this album before they put the art out there, because it just goes perfect, man. Like the artwork and just how it really is a symbiotic relationship, and it's one of the situations. So it reminds me of Dan a lot, how he really does. I think what's cool about Dan is that Dan doesn't have to do anything for any of us, but he loves what we do enough that he wants to be a part of it and showcase it in a way that people will want to see it even more. And so I think that's what people need to realize is like the importance of having those connections with people like Dan, who are creatives, who do something totally different than what you're doing, but they take your art and make it even better. And I think that's something that like this album does. And just, like I said, it reminds me of Dan. And I think it's just really cool when you see those types of things happen. So yeah, if you haven't listened to that album, please do. Really good.
All right, Dan, what's your honorable mentions?
So my honorable mention is going to be Santana's Abraxas.
Oh, great album.
Just this rainbow of energy and love and excitement, and I didn't know what I was going to listen to. I honestly bought it because I like the album art. And as a preteen, I was told it was one of the essential rock albums that I should listen to. So it held up. The music still jams out to this day, and the album art is equally as impressive. And on a side note, I think not to throw shade, but I've bought albums because the album art looked cool, and then I just didn't connect to the music at all.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the biggest examples of that is when you kind of missed the hype train and you were born in 79, but everything was big in the late 70s and 80s. I bought the Velvet Underground and Nico, the famous Banana cover, and I don't like anything on that album.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
I do. Fuck you.
I kind of wanted my $17.99 back from Sam Goody.
We all have
Sam
albums like
did.
that. Not everything connects.
Oh no, there's plenty of albums where I feel bad at points because I'm like this, like I cannot stand Big Star. I know so many people who love them, and I'm just like,
Big Star.
I hear it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's great.
I remember that one.
They're from Houston.
No, they're from like the Midwest
Big
or
Top.
Memphis. They're from Memphis, I want to say, but they're like they were a big influence on the Replacements.
Okay.
Who's another band that I like some of their songs, but they don't. I've never been.
Yeah.
Every time, I mean, I have actively tried. I'm like, okay, I like a couple of songs, but they're not. There are people who love them, and I'm like, they just don't do a lot for me. So for my last one of my honorable mention that I feel like I need to bring up is Songs of Ohia, however you say it, Magnolia Electric Company.
Okay.
That record with the owl and the whole thing, like that was a great. All the artwork those people do were just killer, and that was a big one that I bought. I bought that record solely because I was like, dude, the artwork on this is cool, and I'd heard the name Magnolia Electric Company before, so I picked it up, and it was just like, oh, dude. And then also Raymond Pettibon, anything from SST that he did, all the crazy
Yes.
art and stuff, like that dude did, like pretty much defined everything on that label for the first like 5 years.
Yeah, agreed.
Black Flag art was never the same after he stopped doing it.
So are we now at the point of the question?
Oh yeah, dude, that'd be good to ask. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we're real to that
Yeah.
point.
All right, Dan, final question.
All right, I'm ready.
You ready? All right, give us a list of 3 to 5 bands, group, people, whatever, local, mid-level, whatever, that you feel people should be listening to and should have on their radar.
Minor league bands, not like Slayer or anything like that. But you know.
Slayer playing out September 22nd at Riot Fest in Chicago. I'll be there. But I think I have really enjoyed the last 2 performances from Austin area rock bottom string band. They are very inventive and sporadic in their sound and their instruments. Their energy just is abundant and it's infectious to an audience of 3 or an audience of 50. They're phenomenal. I really have enjoyed you guys introducing me to them through a couple of shows that you've done with them or introduced me to them. They are not on a big label and they're still hustling and they've been around for 20 plus years. I still thoroughly love the hell out of Murder by Death. They are out of Indiana. They tour their asses off. They hustle. They put out great merch. They love music. And they still don't get the attention I think they deserve. And then lastly, there's a couple of small bands that I've seen come through Galveston, which it's not easy to be a not cover band and play in Galveston.
True.
There's some locals that do well, but one of the ones that I have enjoyed, and they don't do as many shows as I would like them to do, would be El Lago. Lauren is phenomenal. Her other side projects are just as good, but I think El Lago kind of tapped into that modern Portishead vibe that I think more people should listen to.
Legit.
I agree with that, man. 'Cause I love the whole dream pop kind of thing of El Lago. We got to see Raw Diver, and that was very like New Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're both very busy, but I'm excited for the work and new instruments that both Sasha and Sean are learning for Little Heron. They're a duo. They work 45, 50 hours a week, but music makes them happy. And they have been teaching themselves new instruments so that their next full album release is more fleshed out. Nice. And I think you guys are an influence on that.
Cool, man.
That's cool.
Sweet.
Hope they dig it, man. We dig those guys.
We do.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight. And
thanks for having me.
As we mentioned early on, we'll be back in 2 weeks with Stephen Prigmore. Later.
Future.
Bye.
Deuces.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Music in the Minor League. As always, if you like the podcast, share it with a friend, post something about it online, help get the word out. We really appreciate it. That's the best way we can keep this thing going and get the artists on this show the recognition they deserve, even if sometimes that artist is us. Like this episode. If you'd like to be a guest, hit us up, hit us via DMs on any of our social media or email us. We'd love to talk to you. That's really about it, man. We've really enjoyed y'all hanging with us. This is episode 11 of season 2. Like, we can't believe we're getting this far into it and people are really listening. We just had a huge spike in listenership, man. That really means a lot to us because really, man, we just want to build a community, man, where everybody comes, a place that you can trust to come look for artists that are out there doing the work. So we really do appreciate you taking the time to check out the podcast. We're going to leave you with the song off of our new album, the second song. It's called Tough as Nails. We hope you dig it, and we will see you next time with Stephen Prigmore. Later.